everywhere GBS.
A very good evening and thank you for joining GBS News at 9. My name is Susan Nganga and our sign language interpreter tonight is Paul Mathenge. We begin this bulletin where Kiharu, Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro, today held a hard-hitting press conference in Nairobi, sharply criticizing the government over its decision to sell a portion of its shares in key state-linked enterprises, including Safaricom. Nyoro argued that the shares are being offloaded at what he termed a shockingly low, unacceptable price, warning that the move amounts to a massive financial loss for the country. He insisted that the such undervaluation not only shortchanges taxpayers but also undermines long-term national interest, as Davis Karani reports.
I have indicated that Kenya is borrowing 1.25 trillion shillings every year.
Addressing reporters at his Nairobi parliamentary office today, Kiharu lawmaker Honorable Ndindi Nyoro stated that the government should explore the strategic values of retaining its investments or selling them at appropriate market rate that reflects their true worth and value. He stressed that the public assets must never be traded in the manner that exposes Kenyans to undue financial risk, noting that the haste and pricing of the planned sales raises serious questions about transparency and prudence. The MP urges the state agencies involved in the transaction to immediately halt the process and re-evaluate both timing and valuation.
Given the developments that we are seeing, including the expansion of Nairobi-Nakuru Highway, we now have had to force NSSF to invest workers' resources in that road, while the government knows for sure it will never break even. Now that we are selling a stake in Safaricom, why can't the government provide that road for free to all the people in the western side of this country?
Hii barabara haikwami pale Mau Summit. Tayari wiki ijayo tayari tumepata pesa kutoka watu wa IE Bank. Tukimaliza hii barabara 2027 ifike pale Mau Summit. Wakati tunafungua tarehe 1, hiyo tarehe 3, mimi naanzisha ile barabara ya kutoka Mau Summit kwenda Uganda.
Nyoro further criticized the plans to introduce charges for Kenyans using the Nairobi-Nakuru Highway after its construction completion in 2027, saying it was insensitive to burden citizens with new taxes when the cost of living remains high. He argues that proceeds from the Safaricom shares on sale could fully finance the modernization of the highway without imposing additional tolls on motorists.
Now that we have another source of the sale of Safaricom stake, why can't the government invest some of this money into a road, and especially Nairobi Mau Summit Road? Why? That a Kenyan in the western part of this country, from Nakuru all the way, who pays pay, who pays VAT, who pays fuel levy, again is made by government to build their own road. Because paying toll is basically government abdicating its job to provide public goods and telling Kenyans, tumewaletea hawa watu mujisoti mujenge nao barabara.
As pressure mounts on the government to justify both sales and the proposed taxation, Nyoro poses a sharp question to the public and policymakers alike in the country. Is it fair to force Kenyans to pay more when the country already has resources to fund its own development?
We are borrowing every day. We are borrowing both in the book and off the book. We are now selling government stakes. Then why again make Kenyans to pay for the road?
This is a question that only time will tell. Davis Karani for GBS News, Nairobi.
We will bring you that report in the coming news. And now the clock ticks and so does the 2027 general election. Political parties and their leaders merge as days go by. The fear and threat of being defeated rings in the mind of those in power. They have tasted power and no longer wish to step out of its wholesomeness. They say, if you want to rule, divide. And this is the assignment President William Ruto tries to execute, whether in church gatherings, state house, or in political environs. To him, the opposition must scatter if remaining the presidency is anything to go by. This begs the question of how sharp his political gimmicks are. Matthew Perez has that report.
Hata nyinyi mnamjua. Si huyu jamaa ndiye amehangaisha Kalonzo. Si alidanganya Kalonzo ati niunge mara moja nitakuunga mara hiyo nyingine.
Just from the word go, former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka has been on the radar of President William Ruto since time immemorial, and perhaps Kalonzo's boundless experience dating back to the days of the second President Daniel Moi makes him a strong match.
Na siniwatume kwa Kalonzo. Si mkimpata Kalonzo, mwambie awache kuhangaishwa na wale watu. Akuja aungane na hasla, tuunde serikali, tuende mbele pamoja. Ama mnasemaje?
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua face multitudinous obstacles in their bid to send William Ruto to Sugoi, rendering him the first one-term president.
Safaria kuna kuiba ni kushinda Ruto aende one term. One term.
Ati Malili mnasemaje? Ati mnasemaje Malili? Hata hapa ni one term. Kabisa. Kasongo aende. Aende asiende. Kasongo aende asiende. Atembee asitembee. Ni muongo si muongo. Ameharibu uchumi hajaharibu.
Their only bravery is to remain afloat, connected and amalgamated.
Sindio? The united opposition is strong. It is very strong. And nobody can divide us.
And as the saying goes, when you divide, you definitely rule. The pressing task and worry to those in power is the unity of the opposition. Gachagua has gone on record saying their pact is a result of mistreatments, manipulations, and deceit from William Ruto. Gachagua, formerly known as Riggy G, has claimed to be the Mount Kenya kingpin.
Ningetaka kuambia hao viongozi wa Azimio wawachane na sisi. Na waachane na viongozi hapa ya Mlima Kenya. Nimeona wanataka kuingilia kiongozi wetu Kimani Ichung'wa, Ndindi Nyoro. Mimi wamenizoea. Na mimi hakuna pahali wanaweza kunipeleka. Mimi I'm not even there. And if they want to know who we are, waulize Uhuru Kenyatta, anatujua vizuri.
Having in mind that the region he hails from often decides Kenya's politics big time, and it's what led to the formation of the incumbent government before his austerity.
I want to give you hope that there is a better tomorrow. Much as we have suffered economically, na shida mingi hapa kwa sababu ya siasa duni, there is hope.
On the other hand, soft-spoken Kalonzo, a former vice president who has for long packaged himself as the political leader of the Eastern Kenya, who has since helped the late opposition leader Raila Amolo Odinga to claim presidency.
Ndugu Raila Odinga, tumetoka mbali. Tumekula tear gas mbali.
Their alliance attracting victories, though stolen at any moment they formed a collision, they were total intimidation to the opponents.
Kwa roho safi, kwa roho safi, Wakenya nasema Raila Odinga tosha mara ya tatu. Kuja hapa ndugu yangu.
Be it as it may, the duo have been mocked, slammed, called out, told blatantly by the opposers that they don't march and can barely move a fly.
Itakuwa tu nimekosa sana speaker nisipofurahia hata mimi ile maneno ambayo iliendelea juzi. Unajua kuna watu walikuwa wamezunguka Kenya na maneno mingi. Tunawaambia tafadhalini, tulizeni. Hii Kenya ni kubwa. Wanaongea sijui nini. Tuliwaambia mtafute sera ya kuambia mwananchi. Mnazunguka na fitina ya one term na Kasongo. Sasa mmepatana na kiboko. Mimi nataka niwaambie mambo bado. Ile kiboko inawangojea hapa, mtarudi kulia kwa manyumba na mabibi yenu peke yake.
Mimi nataka niwaulize. Si ndio? Unajua kuna watu Kenya hii wamezoea maneno ya bure. Wakikuja hapa mtawasikia ni watu hawana agenda, ni watu hawana mpango, ni watu hawana sera. Watakuja hapa wawaambie maneno matatu peke yake. Hakuna kitu kingine watawaambia. Watawaambia one term, Kasongo, must go. Sasa niwaulize watu wa Kiambu.
Nevertheless, according to the duo, they are professionals to rescue Kenya from the reckless leadership. The two knows the game and have since sustained the unending attacks.
Acha niwaambie, yani William Ruto na timu yake wanataka kumshika ndugu Rigiji, waseme ati ameincite watu. Kitendo cha kumkamata Rigiji, I want you to know, Kenya kwisha, Kenya kwanza.
Nevertheless, will Gachagua and Kalonzo's pact stand the test of time? Time will tell.
Ndugu kiongozi uko hapo?
Niko hapa kiongozi.
Kwa hivyo nasema hata kwa Ruto akijiweka ndiye chairman wa IBC ataenda nyumbani.
Tupambane na yeye. Tumsukume. Sasa nyinyi mtaamka mapema kumfukuza. Mtaamka mapema.
Matthew Perez Adungo for GBS News.
Saa ngapi?
The government of Kenya is set to sell a 15% stake in Safaricom to Vodafone Kenya in a deal worth 244.5 billion Kenyan shillings. That's approximately $1.6 billion. This sale will reduce the government's shareholding in Safaricom to 20%, while Vodafone Kenya's ownership will increase to a controlling 55%. Public investors will hold the remaining 25% of Safaricom shares. The sale proceeds will be used as seed capital for the National Infrastructure Fund and Sovereign Wealth Fund to finance national development projects. As part of the transaction, Vodafone Kenya will also make an upfront payment to the government in the lieu of the future dividends on government residual 20% stake. Despite the sale, the government will retain influence by appointing directors to the Safaricom board and safeguarding critical infrastructure. The deal requires regulatory and parliamentary approvals and is positioned as a strategic shareholder-level restructuring rather than a full operational takeover of Safaricom.
It's a shareholder-level adjustment, not an operational takeover. Safaricom's management and board continue to have responsibility for day-to-day operations. The government role as a strategic shareholder continues, and I will elaborate shortly. So in the coming days, we will fulfill all statutory disclosure obligations and requirements and provide further details through the Capital Markets Authority and Nairobi Securities Exchange filings as is required by law. We will also continue to engage, or our engagement with Parliament and the public through the forums that our democracy provides. Once complete, the funds from this transaction will be seed capital, and I want to emphasize that. Once complete, the funds from this transaction will be the seed capital for the National Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which we have previously talked about. I urge Parliament, and more particularly National Assembly, to expedite the approval of the instruments required to establish the two funds.
A company that was trading at 45 shillings per share in 2021, the government is unashamedly telling Kenyans that they want to sell the same company at 34 shillings today. Most of the companies listed in the NSC as we talk are selling, and most of them, including banks, are selling past the 2021 levels. But now we want to give a discount based on the 2021 valuation of a 25% discount to the current buyers. And possibly this should be investigated. Why? Even after so many companies have been recording even 200% increase, Safaricom share, even with the bullish market, has not matched many of the companies in terms of the rise in share price. Probably there was a deliberate suppression of the share. And all I want to say is that the government is underselling Safaricom, and it is to the detriment of all.
President William Ruto has witnessed the signing of a landmark health cooperation framework between Kenya and the United States in Washington, D.C. The agreement, worth $1.6 billion over the next 5 years, aims to strengthen Kenya's universal health coverage by expanding medical equipment access, improving supply chains, and enhancing insurance and workforce capacity. The deal was signed by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. Let's take a look.
Ruto today described the Kenya-U.S. Health Cooperation Framework as a transformative turning point in the country's journey toward universal health coverage. The framework prioritizes the supply of modern medical equipment to hospitals, to timely delivery of essential health commodities across the country, the upscaling of Kenya's health workforce, and expanding health insurance to protect all Kenyans.
The framework we signed today adds momentum to my administration's universal health coverage that is focused on supply of modern equipment to our hospitals, efficient and timely delivery of health commodities to our facilities, enhancement of our health workforce, and health insurance for all, leaving no Kenyan behind.
Under the agreement, the United States will commit $1.6 billion to Kenya over the next 5 years. The funding will be channeled directly through government institutions, removing intermediaries to ensure efficiency, accountability, and maximum impact on citizens. President Ruto thanked the U.S. government under President Donald J. Trump, noting that Kenya is the first country to sign such a framework, an endorsement of the reforms and resilience of the nation's health systems.
This facility will also boost disease surveillance and emergency preparedness. On behalf of the government and people of Kenya, I express profound gratitude to the United States, to President Donald Trump, and to you, Marco, for the commitment of US dollars 1.6 billion to Kenya over the next 5 years. This gesture of goodwill by President Trump on behalf of the American taxpayers reinforce our ongoing mobilization of domestic resources by Kenyans and actors and stakeholders in Kenya to the health sector.
The partnership builds on more than 25 years of cooperation between Kenya and the United States, a collaboration supported by over $7 billion in past investments. The signing was witnessed in Washington, D.C., with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi formalizing the agreement on behalf of both nations.
Today we're here to announce the first signing that we're going to have with the first country in the world on our America First Global Health Strategy. And I want to, for members of the press and the public that will learn about this through you, walk a little bit very briefly into exactly what the thinking is. The United States has spent billions of dollars over the years in helping with health strategies all across the world. What we learned over time, and especially after coming here, is that oftentimes, and I'm oversimplifying it, but this is an accurate description, what would happen is we would go to a country and say, we're going to help you with our health care needs. We are not going to spend billions of dollars funding the NGO industrial complex while close and important partners like Kenya are either have no role to play or have very little influence over how health care money is being spent. Bottom line is, if you want to help a country, work with that country, not work with a third party that imposes things on that country. And so for us, we hope to sign many of these in the days to come.
Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul Elmine.
Machakos Governor Wavinya Ndeti is urging young people to remain vigilant and avoid being exploited for political chaos as the country approaches the election period. Speaking during the official draw for the Super 9 of the Governor Wavinya Cup, the governor encouraged young people to register as voters, embrace discipline, and tap into emerging opportunities in sports and youth empowerment programs. Let's take a look.
Machakos Governor Wavinya Ndeti has urged young people not allow politicians to use them for violence or illegal activities. Speaking during the Super 9 draw of Governor Wavinya Cup, she encouraged youth to register as voters and participate responsibly in elections.
Na tena kingine nataka kuambia, wakati wa siasa kuna watu wamejifunza vibaya kutumia vijana kupigana. Kutumia nini? Gunzi. Vijana wa Machakos msikubali kutumiwa na mtu. Mimi ni kama mama yenu nilishawaambia mwenda mpigane mahali. Hapana. Have I ever told you to organize yourself, you become goons? Hao wanakuja ni kina nani wanawaambia ati nini? Mushikane mwanze kwenda kupigana. Mwambie aende bibi yake na watoto wake. Waandamane na watupe nini? Na wakuwe nini? Goons. Go and bring your whole clan. Sio kuja kutumia watoto wa Machakos vibaya kama wengine walikuwa wanatumiwa hapa Mumbuni.
She also called the professionalism in football, noting that the sport now offers real career opportunities. The governor highlighted the tournament's success with several players scouted to national and international teams, including 6 girls joining the Harambee Starlets under 17 and alumnus Felix Mwendwa showcasing his skills in Spain.
Wengine wanaanza kucheza mpira ni kama mzaha. Hapana. We need to take playing football very seriously. There are people who have earned good money playing football. We need to talk to FKF. We need to have serious training also on our managers and our technical team. We want professionalism in football.
Wavinya reaffirmed her administration's commitment to youth empowerment through programs like the Machakos Youth Services and encourage footballers to perform groups to benefit from upcoming empowerment funds.
In your teams, bring them as groups so that we can start empowering you. You start making money, you understand, for yourselves. You start even exposing yourself, going to play with other teams, so that when the games come, you win. Ile chakula mezani, pesa mfukoni. Hii sio mchezo sasa. Umesikia Wikwacho fund imepitishwa, youth fund already has been, it's a law. The MYS amendment bill tulipitisha youth fund. Kwa hivyo iko pesa ya vijana kuchukua waanze kufanya kazi. Kwa hivyo hizo timu zenu muende mziweke vizuri.
The tournament has attracted 650 teams and over 14,300 players, with the grand final set for 13th December 2025. Winners in both categories will receive 1 million shillings.
Vijana mumeona through sports. Vijana mumeona through MYS. Muliona wale vijana walitrainiwa MYS hapa, si ndio? Si they came na wakapata vyombo vya kwenda kuanza kazi zao. Kuna wengine muliona wamekuja hapa, nimetrain, wamepatiwa driver's license, wamepatiwa bodaboda license na wamepatiwa digital certificates. Wengine wao saa hii wanafanya kazi kwa mitandao. They are selling through mitandao.
Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul M. Minor.
And with that, it is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming into our social media platforms at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is always 21144. We'll be right back.
Talking about navigating the long-distance relationship.
First of all, the world is now a global village thanks to technology and the internet.
When you talk about relationships, when you talk about love, when you talk about feelings, when you talk about emotions, all these things originate from the heart. I never saw in the Bible where someone was married and then the wife was living far away from them, and then there was something that they were building.
When it comes to relationships and probably communication, that distance is not a barrier.
Yeah.
But It is in communication, in effective communication. There is something that long-distance relationships lack, which is very essential for effective relationship building.
When you are cooking and the tap gets spoiled, do you try to repair it from that point, or you run to the main source and then you close it?
So today we are diving into a topic that has become rather popular right here in Kenya, the K-pop culture.
I would say K-pop invokes creativity, like mega creativity. I have friends who are creative and you'll see you've done that and they're like, yeah. An ex told me that K-pop girls, K-pop stan girls, who's like, the men you stan look like women, and you aim to get a man that looks like that. So if you fail to find a man like that, because obviously you're in Kenya, you're not going to find a pretty man.
For me, it's like I have two personalities at this point. I have my normal life and I have my army life. Because when I get into my army life, it's just like a whole new world. A community full of people who don't judge, people who accept you.
Learning Korean from a Kenyan can sometimes mess you up because they pronounce words differently, and when you speak to a native, it's like, hold up, what did you say?
I've never met like a K-pop fan. I don't know why.
What am I?
No, not many people want to like express themselves like, I'm a K-pop fan. Unless you see them like wearing like a branded t-shirt or a branded hoodie, you realize that they're K-pop fans.
The main campaign of BTS is loving yourself, right? And K-pop has a lot of drawbacks. Just like anything else, too much of something is poisonous, yeah? And one of the drawbacks is it comes with beauty because they have these absurd beauty standards. Well, BTS passed this message that you're supposed to love yourself, embrace yourself. You're just perfect the way you are. You know, you don't have to eat less to be beautiful. You're beautiful from the inside, right? Getting to BTS, it's hard to come out.
Okay.
About being a pageant queen. It is not just about wearing a crown or looking pretty on social media. It is about how much you can impact the community. What can you do with the title you hold? Actually, a young model in the industry. I started modeling this year in school. Actually, I used to go to International Youth Fellowship where we had a modeling class. I used to study fashion and design, and we had a modeling class. So I am high fashion trained. On Instagram, kelly.omuhaya. On TikTok, Miss Omuhaya.
Now tell us about that moment when you had your name that you won Miss Kasarani 2025-2026.
What I would like to advise you is keep going. Put God first. Be resilient. Be a go-getter. Find joy within yourself. Walk with pride. Chin up. Smile. You are a queen. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. That makes me always rise, knowing that I have something that is greater than what people can see.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the bulletin, and now to some international news. Tanzania's government is tightening security and issuing firm warnings ahead of opposition-led protest planned for December 9th. Police say the demonstration time to coincide with Independence Day pose a serious threat to public order, citing intelligence reports of planned violence, the use of weapons and attempts to disrupt critical communication infrastructure. This comes in the wake of a tense post-election period marked by deadly clashes, an internet shutdown, and allegations of mass killings following the disputed October polls. Prime Minister Mwigulu Nchemba is urging citizens to stay away from the protest, while authorities say anyone inciting or participating in unrest will face action. The government has also cancelled official Independence Day celebration redirecting rather funds to rebuild infrastructure damaged in recent violence. Security agencies are now closely monitoring social media for content they say could provoke panic during this volatile period. Let's take a listen.
Jeshi la polisi kwa kushirikiana na vyombo vingine vya ulinzi na usalama vimekuwa vikifuatilia kwa karibu sana yanayoendelea katika mitandao ya kijamii na kwenye makundi sogozi, wakihamasisha wanayoyaita maandamano ya amani yasiyo na kikomo ya tarehe 9 Disemba 2025. Ni uhalifu mkubwa unaoendelea kuhamasishwa. Hali kama hii kwa nchi yoyote ile duniani ni tishio kubwa la maisha ya watu, uchumi wa nchi na masuala yote ya kijamii.
The Kenyan government has ramped up its efforts to attract fresh Chinese investment using the colorful and highly attended China Investment Games held today at the Nyayo Sports Complex in Nairobi as a strategic stage to demonstrate the nation's economic resilience, expanding market and commitment to investor-friendly reforms. Government officials, diplomats and business leaders turned the sporting event into a powerful showcase of Kenya's potential, highlighting opportunities in infrastructure, energy, manufacturing, technology, tourism and agro-processing, while emphasizing the country's central role as a gateway to the East African community and wider continent.
And therefore, we expect going forward quite more with several other corporates coming together. We have had a discussion with them and we are requesting them that the way they have organized this one, if it is possible for them, they support our Kenyan team. We have the football team, we have athletics, and quite a number of rugby and the likes, because it is within their corporate social responsibility.
I think it's a very good program. It will strengthen the friendship not only between the Chinese staff and the Kenyan staff of the Chinese enterprises in Kenya, but also the friendship between Chinese and the Kenyan people. The sports, cooperation in sports is a very important part of our relations.
The China-Kenya Friendship Games have been, it's one of a kind that we're doing. This is the first series that has just started off, and it's one of the things that we're looking at increasing our partnership and cooperation in the Kenyan space and also in the Chinese space. And one of the things is that we are trying to see how, as partners, we can be able to further enhance the youth development and also just see the work-life balance that people are experiencing, because there's a lot around mental wellness.
And with that, you have come to the end of the news bulletin. It's always a pleasure having you on board. My name is Susan Nganga, and our sign language interpreter tonight has been Alan Kiama. Have a good night.
Everyone